Today I'm sharing how a $200 makeover helped me reclaim my backyard and my confidence. So I used to think that I needed thousands of dollars and professional help for me to make my yard look decent because it had fallen in such disrepair. But even that belief wasn't mine. Toxic relationships make you question your instincts, even with small things like home projects. My narcissistic ex convinced me that my ideas weren't good enough, first of all, that we needed a lot of money for this yard makeover. He made me believe that some of my favorite parts of the yard, which are the flower beds, were a nuisance. Like they're just a waste to have all that. It just causes more work, which yes, it does, but it also causes more beauty, right? And that messaging kept me stuck, not just in my yard, but in life, all of life, until just last weekend, we had a situation. It wasn't last week, I'm sorry. It was probably a month ago, I would say. My daughter wanted to have a party with her friends and she wanted them to be able to go into the backyard. And I was just like, oh man, that is so overwhelming to even think about because I kept our yard mowed and edged and all that. But there's a wooden deck that's old, it's moldy, it needs to be cleaned, it needs to be power washed. And I really need to get rid of it, but for now it's, that's just too big of a project. But the flower beds were empty on one side because we have dogs that like to, get in there and mess around. One of them passed away, and the one that still likes to go out there, she's not as destructive. So I feel like, we can update that flower bed. And then the other flower bed I had already started working on a couple of years ago. So I had put some little hedge bushes, I had put some roses, and it was starting to look really good. But it was overgrown with weeds because it was such a chore to pull all the weeds in order to put down a weed preventer. And then I thought that we would have to get like somebody to come put the mulch in for us, like we would have to hire somebody, or we would have to get a dump truck of mulch delivered, because that's what we had always done in the past. And that was anywhere from $150 to $300, plus a lot of work. And I just have struggled to get the energy and the motivation to do the work. Plus, the extra money living on a single income is much more difficult. So I had just waited. Well, my daughter went out and bought 3 bags of mulch, and she bought a big, beautiful caladium plant. And so I thought, okay, we can fix up this bed back here with this mulch that she bought. I don't know if it's gonna go far enough, but she told me it was all under $20 for all those things that she bought. And I was thinking, what, really? So I went to the store, the big box store, and I bought more plants. And I looked, and the big giant bags of mulch were like $3.50 at the time. They were on sale for $3.50. I think they're typically like $3.90 something. But I don't know what that did, but it just unlocked something within me that I can actually do this. So I didn't buy mulch that day, but I bought more plants and I put them in the flower bed. And it's a big flower bed, so it needs more plants. I put the mulch out that she had bought, and it was not quite enough, but it was really close. So I thought, if I just buy 3 more bags of soil and I buy 4 bags of mulch, I can do the other flower bed and this flower bed, and our yard can start looking really great. And she wanted to get some string lights to hang up. Those were a little over $30 on Amazon for 120 feet. And then we had some old rocking chairs in the garage that had been sitting there forever that somebody had given us, and we just never put them out. So I got those out and cleaned those up and did the weeding. And it took probably half the day to do the weeding and put the soil and the mulch in the flower bed. And I sprayed some wet and forget on the deck, and what that does is you just spray it and it kills the mold. I had sprayed it somewhere else before and it didn't really work that great, but it did help on the deck. So I was just so amazed that under $20, or not under 20, sorry, under $200, I could just totally transform my yard from this, messy disrepair, just overwhelming weeds overtaking it, to looking actually quite decent. Still needs a lot of work, of course, but I don't know what that did inside of me, but it just unlocked this piece where I had still been, I guess, in like a freeze response, because I just didn't have that motivation to get out there and take on this huge task. And it took, of course, that push from my daughter. So I'm so grateful to her. I told her lots of times, I'm so grateful that you gave me this push to get this done, because now when I walk out the door, I feel so much better. I don't have that overwhelming shame that I felt before when I would go outside. And so probably, that first time I told you about that I went and bought plants, I did that. And then I bought a couple more this past weekend, and we got it all nice and looking great. So there's still other projects to do. Like, I really need to paint my back door. It looks terrible. My dog was outside one day when I was at work and it started to rain, and she chewed on the door, or maybe it was even during the night, but she chewed on the door frame. So I've got to fix that. And then, I've got to figure out what I'm going to do with the deck. At some point, I need to paint the house, which it's not a huge task because we have a lot of brick, not a lot of, trim or anything to paint. And I just feel so much more hopeful than I felt before. So I just want to give you a quick overview of what I did. I refreshed the flower beds instead of removing them, which is what my ex wanted to do. He said, let's get rid of them and just let the grass grow there. I added new mulch and reused some of my old pots. I shopped sales and, just bought little plants that will grow into something nicer over time. It's going to take a little bit of time for them to fill in. I took my time over a few weeks. I didn't do this all overnight. I did it over a few weeks. I did work really hard for 2 days to get ready for her party that she wanted to have. But before that, I had already done quite a bit of work. So that helped. So if this is resonating with you, if you feel like you've been in this place where you're just stuck and you have a partner that is emotionally abusive or narcissistic, and they are keeping you in this mode of like, you can't move forward and you're feeling overwhelmed, well, that's what I created my group program for, which is called Becoming Conscious. And I named it that because I just thought, I was waking up to all the emotional and psychological abuse that I was dealing with. It was so hard for me to call it abuse for a very long time because I felt like this person loved me. I felt like he was so loyal to me and he was wanting me in his life, but at the same time, he was doing things that were harming me and my children. He was isolating me from friends and family. He was discouraging me from moving forward with my goals. So it's a 12-week program with weekly group calls, and there's a program like with a module every week to help you get out of that stuckness and start focusing on you again, whether you decide to leave or not. And it's a great price right now because I'm trying to get my first 100 members in there. And so if you know somebody that really needs it, but they can't afford it right now, message me and I will work on that. I can also help with a payment plan if the two that I have are not going to work for you. So let me know if you need help with that. Because I want every woman to get out of a place where she feels stuck and has no options. So, moving on. The results from my yard are that the yard looks better than it has in so many years. And it reflects me and what I want for my yard. Not what somebody tells me would be easier, or somebody tells me, you know, they don't like my idea or whatever. I get to choose. And more than that, I feel proud, I feel capable, I feel clear. I just feel so good about what I was able to do in, you know, such a short period of time with a very limited budget. And I realized I was coming out of this freeze mode. I can't even explain to you, I think I mentioned that before, but I can't explain to you what that feeling was like. It was just like such shock that finally I was starting to feel like there are things I can do. I can fix this house up the way I want it. I can make it look like something I'm proud to come home to or to show to my friends and family. And, you know, I realized it wasn't just about the backyard. It's about reclaiming myself. And you can do it too. You are so capable. You are so strong. You've put up with so much over the years. And you've taken care of everybody else. And now it's time to take care of yourself. And, you know, that's creating boundaries. That's beginning to look again at the things that you love, and it's getting support. You need friends, family members, and people that lift you up, not just somebody that's going to bring you down and tell you that, you know, you don't know what you're doing, you don't have good ideas. Those people just drag you down to such a level that it's frankly hard to overcome. It takes those baby steps. And we're going to do it together. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're hanging out with me. If you stayed till the end, you know, I'm so glad you're here. And I would love for you to answer in the comments if there have been some moments where you realized you were more capable than you thought. I would love to hear what you've reclaimed or beautified. If you haven't started yet, you can start today and tell me later. You can come back to this video and write in the comments. And don't forget about Becoming Conscious. I'll put the link in the description below. We start next week. If you missed the start date, that's okay. Jump in at any time and I will run the program again. So if now is not the right time for you, that's okay. So thanks so much for joining, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.